Morning, Lourdes.
Good morning, Maria. How are you today?
I'm doing great. No, really, I am. I'm doing great.
Okay.
All right, then. All right, good. Well, welcome back to Coaching Conversations. I'm Maria Sabio.
And I'm Lourdes Leeper.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been stuck in your head lately, you're questioning why things feel so heavy, this episode's really for you. It's going to speak directly to you because sometimes the problem isn't the problem, it's what we're believing about the problem.
Yeah. And so let's dive right in. And be sure to watch to the end because we always leave you with some practical practices. But let's be real, life throws things at us: illness, job loss, rejection, people ghosting you. And we think, oh, this is bad. This shouldn't be happening. And boom, we're in pain. But Marcus Aurelius says, what's detrimental to you doesn't depend on someone else's command center, but on that part of you that takes things to be bad.
I, I think that you really have to let that marinate because uh, it really goes back to your beliefs and what you're believing. Because it's not what's happening, it's the meaning you're assigning to it. And you're not hurting because your boss was unfair, and you're hurting because you believe this means I'm not valued. You're not spiraling because they didn't call you back or whatever it might be they didn't do. You're spiraling because you decided that it means that you're not lovable. This means I'm not lovable is actually going in your mind.
Yeah. And, this is something that I think we all engage in. I was having a conversation yesterday with a small group of women, and we were talking about kind of exactly this, but it was framed in triggers, right?
Mhm.
When we see ourselves being triggered by someone else's behavior, what they said, what they did, and this tendency of ours to create meaning, right?
Mhm.
They did X and that means, and then, we're having a reaction. And then before you know it, you're off to the races because now you're reacting to what they said. And, you know, poof, the whole interaction can really just explode based on the meaning that you have assigned to the other person's behavior. And 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 that's what we want to talk about today, that part of your mind that assigns meaning. Well, you can learn to manage that, and that's your power. And here's what's wild: philosophers have been saying this since 170 AD, but fast forward to today, modern psychology and neuroscience agree.
Right, they totally confirm it. I mean, Dr. Feldman Barrett, she explains that emotions aren't hardwired, they're constructed by your brain. So they're constructed by you. Your brain doesn't react to the world, it constructs your experience of the world. And you've been doing this since childhood, you've been doing this forever. So think about that. Your emotion is a story your brain is telling. If your story changes, your suffering can change as well.
Yeah, and then there's cognitive behavioral therapy, right? CBT. Dr. Aaron
Mhm.
Beck taught that your thoughts, not the event, cause your distress. And this is cognitive reframing in action. Dr. Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. We have the ability to pause and actually reflect on what's happening, right? Watching ourselves be triggered, you know, what we're feeling in our bodies, what we're thinking in our heads. And instead of diving in, we can pause and take a moment and reflect before we react.
You know, that, I mean, obviously that's spot on. So if you're suffering right now, and you can, have that space and stop and ask, what story is my mind creating here? Because that's where your healing really starts. When you're able to pause and reflect, and now you're no longer going on that same road where you begin to negate yourself and cause your suffering. So if you can pause there, emotionally, you can go into a different space, and it can be more constructive and beneficial to you. And it's also the same thing with your physical pain. You magnify the meaning you give it. It's not just emotion or theory. It's, again, it's neuroscience.
Yeah, you know, studies show that pain intensity increases when your brain perceives the pain as unfair, personal, or permanent. But when you change the narrative, when you say, this is temporary or this is not about me, the brain literally lowers the pain signal. And this is the basis of acceptance and commitment therapy, too. Your resistance to reality increases your suffering. As they say, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Yeah, and I think that if you reflect, you'll see that you've done this, that you've been able to mitigate your suffering by doing that pause, and also by interjecting, this is temporary. Sometimes I don't like flying, and I will remember, hey, this is only a 2-hour thing. It's not going to last forever. Or when anything happens, that reminder that it's temporary, that it's not going to last forever, it gets you through a lot. I just have to do this, and I'll get to the next step. So you really have to start asking yourself, am I hurting because something is hard, or because I believe this shouldn't be happening? And that question, it can create the shift that you're looking for. So you have to, again, you remember, you don't need to control what happens, but you do need to own what you believe about what happens. So if the part of you that has this belief stays quiet, or is negated in some way, even if it's a tiny negation of it, if you can say, oh, that's not really true, or if you can find reasons why something else might be true, just that tiny distraction, then there's no resistance. So without the resistance, there isn't suffering.
Yeah, and you know, this isn't about toxic positivity. It's about radical neutrality. When something tough or challenging happens, instead of labeling it as bad, just call it happening. This is occurring. And you know, when we see, Marie and I see this work in our clients, when they stop reacting and start reflecting, they're able to find clarity, calm, and even courage, because they're stepping out of that, their habit loops of reacting and assigning meaning to things that render them powerless.
Right, right. And that's the thing. You're not um, powerless, right? You just forgot that you can choose the meaning. You actually forgot that you have power. So how do we live this, right? How do we apply this wisdom today when you're overwhelmed or heartbroken or just, just basically stuck in traffic, right?
Right. Sometimes it's the smallest things that really can
Yeah.
knock us out of balance, right? So let's share some daily practices so folks can reclaim their inner narrative. Um, Start with naming the trigger, right? And ask what happened and just state the facts. Don't go into the story, don't go into the drama. And then watch the thought. What am I making this mean about me or my life? And then challenge the thought. Is this 100% true? What else could be true? Right?
Yeah, I really like that question. What else can be true? Because just putting that in that little, asking that little question, again, instead of going on one tangent, you're shifting, and that's enough to distract your mind and get you into a positive, thought pattern. But you can also, you know, you become neutral labeling, replace it with this is this is terrible. So instead of saying this is terrible, this is just challenging. And if you practice the growth mindset, you understand that you're leveling up with each challenge. And that's what you want to do. Life is about growing, it's not about staying in the same place that you are. It's about challenges, building muscle. And, come back to now and ask yourself, what is the next right thing I can do right now? Because the more that you do this, the faster your mind quiets, and your nervous system, it calms down, and you can return to a state of being centered, or even to a state of flow, instead of creating that spiral and that chaos that our minds can often do when we allow them.
Yeah. We sometimes get hijacked, right? So
Yeah.
the idea here is to stop reacting and start responding because that's where your power lives. And here's the truth. You are the meaning maker, not the world, not your boss, not your past.
Right. And, that means your peace, your emotional freedom and mastery, it doesn't belong to anyone else. It's yours to actually reclaim, one belief at a time. So let's leave you with a quote that actually embodies this beauty. Let me just put it up. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters.
Yeah. Take this into your day, into your next conversation, into your next challenge. And remember, you can choose peace even when life is messy.
Yeah. So we're with you every step of the way. Drop us a comment. What belief are you ready to reframe today?